beginning with an aspiration for the sake of all beings. May there be wisdom, compassion, and non-clinging awareness. And again, thank you for being here for this virtual Dharma talk. But given that almost everything in our world, meaning our experience day to day, is virtual, and that it is interpreted by our mind that creates a story about the reality, it's wonderful to contemplate what is the difference between being together through a screen, through the virtual medium, the virtual platform, and being together in the room. Hopefully we'll be back together, some of us anyway. We've got Barbara and others joining us from off island, as we say over here. But for those of you on island, we hope to meet again at the Rotary in February. It seems skillful to move today's talk to the online platform for two reasons. One being the increased transmissibility right now of COVID, although we are allowed to meet safely and can and will do so again. Also, until today, and maybe still in Nanaimo, it was rather treacherously snowy over here, and we didn't want people necessarily driving when it might not have been safe to do so. So here we are in our homes. I've got a lotus candle, I've got an elephant, I've got a reclining Buddha, and I have a rather fancy cat tree. So, you know, we've got all the things we need to awaken swiftly. So we'll begin with a meditation. I'm just going to make the screen bigger for me. Get rid of all distractions on the computer. So I invite us all to settle, and we'll work with the theme a bit tonight of coming home. Coming home. Coming home to our body. First of all, coming home to our heart, coming home to our direct experience. And I'd like us each to begin in one of the most simple and effective ways to arrive, to invite the mind to settle in the here and now, in the present, is rather simply to meditate for the first part of our practice on physical sensations that are happening here and now. So the body touching things. In this case, I'm in this chair. I'm partly cross-legged, so my legs are touching, having pressure, having contact with the flesh of the chair, so to speak. My elbows, my wrists are making contact, as you see, with the arms of the chair. My back is having contact with the back of the chair. So each of you in your own sitting posture right now, on the couch, on a chair, perhaps cross-legged on the floor, on a bench, on a cushion, however you're sitting is absolutely fine. But I want you to close your eyes, and we'll begin this meditation with the simplicity of directing your attention to one of the most, shall we say, obvious or tangible points of contact right now between your body and form. So for a lot of us, that may be the lower back or the buttocks or the thighs, where there's the greatest sensation of pressure, of bum pressing on chair, chair pressing on bum, or lumbar, lower back pressing on cushion or back of chair, and back of chair making contact. Don't overthink this at all. You can choose your feet touching the floor, but choose an area, maybe your buttocks, your thighs, your back, maybe your hands or your feet that are touching something other than your own body, and begin directing the attention there. For the next few moments, we'll make that touch point. I'm going to focus on my buttocks on the chair, my lower back on the chair, that area as the meditation object. So that means directing the attention to the sensations where the body is, in this case, touching the chair. Directing the attention to focus on those sensation points. In Pali, we'd call it rupa, or form. Because our body is actually here right now. It's actually present in the chair or on the cushion in the room where you are. So this can be a very skillful way to explore being present. By inviting the mind to pay attention to something that is very clearly present in the present moment. Your body's right here. It's not at the store tomorrow morning. It's not in your car driving home from work an hour ago, rushing to get back in time for the class. It's here. The body is here. So directing our attention to the body in this simple way can be a very skillful way to invite the mind. Hello, mind. Come join us. Come join the body and the chair, please, here and now in this present moment. And just to clarify for anyone new to the practice, we do that by focusing the attention on the point of connection you've chosen, maybe your feet, your bum, your back. And when the attention drifts or jumps to some other object, a thought, a sensation, a sound, something you see, just notice that your attention is moved, no problem, and then direct it back. Direct it back to what? Direct it back to the point of contact, the actual body in the actual room right now. Directing your attention to that which is actually happening right now, over and over again. So we'll enter into a period of meditation, so simple, not easy, but so simple. Resting your attention on the point of contact of body, on the chair, or etc. When you lose focus, come back over and over again. I'm just dropping in the truth that in this moment we have nowhere to be other than right here, right now. We have nothing to do other than just this. We have nowhere to go. So exploring what it's like to just be sitting and attending to the pressure of the body on the chair, cushion, the bench. And you can notice whether the mind is busy or still or moving along that vast spectrum between the two. And then simply refocus on the physical point, the tangible, the real, the actually happening in the here and now of the body making contact with the chair. Just over and over, if the mind wanders, inviting it back to the tangibility of the present moment by placing the attention on the physical body, solid form, here and now. and utilizing this precious time. There is nowhere to go. Nothing we have to do. Give yourself the gift of presence and stillness with one simple instruction only. Nothing else necessary. Simply place the attention with curiosity and focus, a little bit of effort on the place of your body making contact with the chair, or your feet making contact with the floor. And for the last few minutes of this first sit, begin again. You've allowed the mind to drift a little. It's okay. But for the last few minutes, treat them as though they're the only minutes we have, which they are. And we're going to apply a little more effort, a little more focus for a few silent minutes, focusing on physical sensation in the here and now. Well, I must admit, a small amount of clinging in that I just want to keep meditating for hours. What a delight. So lovely to see some of you here that I haven't seen for a while. I look forward to meeting again in person. But for now, this will do nicely along with multiple distractions. I'm sure there's some distractions in your environments. I had a kitten trying to break into a brand new bag of dog food. I had a dog wandering about and this and that. It was quite wonderful. It was a mind, going over here to break into something it shouldn't and get some treats that it wants and be bored and wander about and demand attention and all the things our human minds tend to do. So welcome to this, our first Dharma talk of the year 2022. I don't know about you, but I could hazard a somewhat educated guess. Perhaps this symbolic time of the year this year is a little extra important to some of us, the sense of 2021 being a challenging year as the year before it was. And the turning of the year, yes, it's just a day on a calendar. But the nice thing about symbols is we can choose to take them in as a reminder. So the symbol of New Year's Eve, the symbol of January 1st, the symbol of a so-called new year, I find very powerful. I find it's a reminder. It's like an excuse really for me to recollect, review the past year, and to think forward and make some hopefully wholesome intentions for the year to come. So I thought I would share a bit tonight from a Dharma perspective and from maybe a sort of a wholesome life perspective, some ideas, some teachings, some thoughtfulnesses for each of us, certainly myself included, around intentions. And I'll remind us that in the Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths, there's the first noble truth of the truth of dukkha, the truth of some unsatisfactoriness or suffering in this human life, whether it's physical pain, whether it's the loss of relationships, whether it's scary medical diagnoses, whether it's the tiny inconveniences or the vast tragic losses of our life, that some of the changes we'll encounter in this mortal body, in this mortal lifespan, will be difficult, will be challenging. Others will be beautiful, others will be neutral. The second noble truth points out that the cause of our suffering, and this is what many of us in the West don't understand and haven't really heard before, but the cause of our suffering isn't the event itself, the cancer diagnosis, the marital breakup, the death of a loved one, breaking a bone, losing our job, having a tough day-to-day where everything seemed to go wrong. But these events are not the cause of our suffering. That seems counterintuitive to most of us until we've heard some Dharma. What do you mean that's not the cause of my suffering? Of course I'm suffering because my loved person doesn't want to be my husband, wife, or partner anymore. Of course I'm suffering because my grandmother's passed away. Of course I'm suffering because it's very logical to ascribe the cause of our suffering to the event, the object, the circumstance. And yet, the second noble truth reminds us that the cause of our suffering is actually our clinging to wanting things to be different. When we're okay with what is, we're fine. When we don't like what is, when we want to push away with aversion what is happening, the cancer diagnosis, the broken heart, that is the cause of our suffering. It's the clinging to wanting something other than this that is the cause of our suffering. No one is saying that a loss, a death, a cancer diagnosis are neutral events. What Dharma is saying is we can interact with these difficult events, the difficult changes from the first noble truth of impermanence and dukkha, in a way that's more skillful by not clinging to wishing it was different. Instead, doing a better job to be in equanimity with the truth of what is. The third noble truth tells us that the way to stop suffering, wouldn't that be great? How's that for an intention for 2022, to cease suffering? The way to cease suffering is to quit clinging, to quit wanting it to be different. It is so methodically logical. It is so simple and clear. Things change. Some of the changes aren't what we want. We cling to wanting the good stuff and not wanting the bad stuff. Then we suffer. If we want to stop suffering, let go of wanting it to be different, come into alignment with the truth of reality, and you will suffer no more. I can't remember off the top of my head which Tibetan teacher it is from the 12th or the 10th or the 8th century, but he famously said, it might have been Tsongkhapa, but I'm not sure. He famously said, cease all clinging and allow awakening to arise. Cease all clinging. That's it. That's the entire path to Buddhahood, is to cease all clinging. Well, that's pretty difficult for the majority of us mere mortals. And so the Buddha taught the fourth noble truth, which is the eightfold path. This is teaching many of you are familiar with. There may be a few for whom it is new or who you need a refresher. But the eightfold path, I tend to make a circle with my hands here because the word path implies a linearity, you know, a trail leading to a conclusion with maybe 8 steps on it. That's a very normal place for our English-speaking mind to go when we hear the word path. Instead, I invite you to think of it more like a pie, more like a circle with 8 pieces, 8 chunks. Because it's not that we pass through the eightfold path in a linear fashion. We don't kind of complete phase 1, which is right view or wise view. That's the first of the 8. And then move through the second one, which is right intention or wise intention. And then and only then we move to the third one and so on. Instead, think of it like an incredible gym, as in a workout gym, a gym of awakening, a gym of skillful activities, a gym of 8 incredibly important stations scattered around the room. And to awaken the body, speech, and mind, we want to become strong and flexible and adept with all 8 of these exercises. But we're all different. Our strengths and weaknesses currently are all different. Our natural abilities for some things are strong, and for others, we find them very out of our element, very out of our depth, very new. And so we kind of move from station to station in this gym of awakening I'm painting a picture of right now. And for a while, we work on this one, and for a while, we work on that one. And then maybe we don't work on any of them for a while. We kind of fall out of the gym. Many of us have had that happen in our lives, and it's delightful to see some of you here tonight. I haven't seen in a while, to say, come back to the gym, try on an exercise again, see if it leads to more wholesome body, speech, and mind. So the 8 aspects that the Buddha laid out of the Noble Eightfold Path are essentially trainings for us to study for the rest of our lives. And if there are future lives, through all of those as well. How can we improve the wisdom, the compassion, and the depth of our view, the way we view the world, the way we view the cause of suffering and the release of suffering? How can we have wiser, more wholesome, more compassionate intention? I'm going to mainly focus on that one this evening. How can we have more wise and wholesome speech? More wise and wholesome livelihood, more wise and wholesome actions? How can we have more wise and wholesome training of the mind, broken down into the 3, the 6th, 7th, and 8th aspects of this circular 8 pieces of the pie are wise or right mindfulness, wise or right concentration, and wise or right effort. Those 3 are really about meditation. Now we can do a whole lot of teachings another time on the Eightfold Path, but it essentially clumps into three chunks of pie, which are conduct or ethics, how we speak, what we do in our workplace, how we act. That's sort of the ethics, clean up your act part. There's the meditation part I just referred to, which is cultivating mindfulness, the ability to concentrate in our meditation and in our life, and placing effort into training the mind and training the heart in the study of Dharma and meditation. And then we circle back. I just named 6 of them. In the ethics cluster, we've got 3, right speech, right livelihood, and right action. In the meditation cluster, we've got 3, right concentration, right mindfulness, and right effort. That equals 6. There's 2 left. They're the first 2, the last 2, the big 2, the totality of awakening are in the wisdom cluster. This is right or wise view and right or wise intention. Let's talk about intention. What a great time of year to do it on January 3rd, 2022. Now, I hope none of you made any New Year's resolutions. The scientific data on the failure of New Year's resolutions is quite hilarious. It's something like, I didn't look it up recently, but I've looked at the studies in years gone by, so I'll approximate them here. I may be a couple percentage points off, drawing it from memory, but something like 87% of New Year's resolutions that people make on the 31st of December, they fail within the first 24 hours. So I'm going to quit sugar, or I'm going to quit smoking, or I'm going to walk 10,000 steps on my Fitbit device or my Apple Watch every day. Well, maybe I'll start tomorrow. So here we are on January 3rd. By now, probably 90% of resolutions have failed. Why is that? Is it because people are big fat liars? No. Is it because people didn't care about the resolutions they made? For the most part, no. A lot of the resolutions people make, and we've made in the past, and maybe even made this year, are things that we want to change. We do want to eat less sugar, or drink more water, or exercise more, or spend more time with our grandkids, or. It's not that the idea is a bad one. It's not that the person doesn't care or is lazy or bad. It's that the majority of people don't understand how to actually change behavior. And simply deciding we're going to change is a very poor predictor of behavior change. I'm a psychologist as well as a Dharma teacher, right? And to change a behavior takes a fair number of steps for the most of us. To create a new habit takes a fair bit of effort for most of us. So what does that mean? What it means is that what psychology indicates leads to successful behavior change, say wanting to exercise more, is first of all, people go through what's called a pre-contemplation stage. And that's where you think about, gee, I think I'd like to exercise more. I'd like this to be the year I become more fit and more healthy. And you think about it for weeks, maybe even months, but you think about it fairly realistically. I would really like to become more fit. Well, what will that look like? And then you really parse down some realistic possibilities. Is it realistic to say, starting tomorrow, I'm going to run 10 miles a day? Well, if you're not a fairly experienced runner, if you don't have a good pair of running shoes, if you don't know if your body takes well to that, if you haven't figured out when and how you'll manage to run 10 miles a day, you're going to be an epic fail, as my niece would say, on day one. So the pre-contemplation phase, it might last several years. Your pre-contemplation phase for a behavior change might be, I would like to change jobs. You might take several years kind of contemplating that here and there, or now and then, thinking about what might be realistic, thinking about when you can maybe afford to make that change, maybe even training or taking some courses in the new skill you'd like to move into. And then we move into the contemplation phase. Wow, okay, hang on, did you catch that? Pre-contemplation can last X amount of days, months, or years. Then you move into the contemplation phase. You still haven't made any change yet. In the contemplation phase, hopefully you get down with yourself and you start thinking more specifically. Let's go back to the one I chose. I'd like to get more fit in 2022, let's say. Pretty common resolution this time of year is around fitness or food or weight loss, that sort of thing, for better and worse. Some of those are ridiculous, but anyway. Some of them are good. To be a healthier person is good. To think you have to be model skinny when that's not your body type or health is bad. There you go. So if you were contemplating, you'd like to be more healthy, more fit, take better care of your body, you might think about it for a while. And then when you move from pre-contemplation into the contemplation phase, that's where you want to get more realistic. Okay, what are activities I enjoy doing or think I might like to try? Do I like going to a gym? Do I like swimming? Do I like walking, hiking, skiing? Do I like stretching? Do I like yoga? How much realistically makes sense for my body to do? Should I consult a professional, a personal trainer? Should I check with my doctor, my physical therapist, my chiropractor about certain things that may or may not work for me? Really contemplating now. You've moved out of kind of a big picture pre-contemplation phase, and you're moving into, okay, I really want to do this. What's going to make sense? Gather data, consult with experts, figure it out, and then narrow it down to where you're ready to begin the new behavior. And don't say, okay, on January 2nd, I'm going to start working out. Unless you've pre-contemplated and then contemplated and then got clear on what might work for you, you've researched, you've maybe tried a few things, maybe you went to one yoga class, one spin class, one hike, And you say, okay, this is what I'm going to commit to. And then pick a period of time. A month is a great amount of time. And say, okay, for this month, my intention, my goal is I'm going to go for 2 walks a week of at least an hour. And on the alternate days, I'm going to walk for at least 10 minutes out of the house around the block. Make it realistic, make it in chunks, make it time limited. For the next month, here is my commitment. At the end of that month, review what you did. Better yet, make a chart. There's great research to show. People who write their goals down, it can be on an app or on a piece of paper. That's why I'm doing this. And you could spend a minute a day doing this, where you just create a checklist. I'm a big fan of like old-fashioned piece of paper, put a grid on it, Monday through Sunday, and then, walk, swim, etc. And then I just put a check when I do it. People who measure in the most simple way, 2, 3, 4 minutes a day, have something like a 42% likelihood, higher likelihood they'll stick to their goals. So what does this have to do with Dharma? Well, right intention or wise intention is about starting to incline our mind towards wholesome activities, starting to incline our mind towards the things we feel are important to reduce suffering for self and others. Several of you on this call tonight, and there's more of you watching on YouTube. I can't see who's on YouTube, just those of you who've joined via Zoom. We're at the marvelous retreat we had the pleasure to attend, 3 weeks ago or so at Bethlehem Center in Nanaimo, where we had a 3-day meditation retreat. How wondrous. How did we get there? By accident? No, we set an intention. We decided this was important. And then what? Did you magically show up on Friday at lunchtime for the retreat? Of course not. You had to then make plans. You had to break it down. This is so obvious. Nothing I'm saying is surprising to you, but the part I want you to listen to is that almost everybody fails in their intentions. Almost everybody fails in their plans. Almost everybody fails in their New Year's resolutions because they don't really dial down and decide what's important to them, and then come up with a realistic plan with some realistic action steps, make a grid, make a commitment, get an accountability buddy, and then move toward that. In a Dharma sense, what I want each of us to think about tonight, what are some wholesome things for you that you would like to create, that you would like to participate in, that you would like to make a priority for your body, speech, and mind in this year to come? Yet let's utilize this symbolic time of year, this fresh start, this new beginning to say, okay, I, Cheryl Fraser, value XYZ. I, Cheryl Fraser, intend to cultivate more XYZ or do more XYZ. Here's a super simple one. I've been inclining for several years toward desiring to do more and longer retreats personally with my teachers and with myself in solo retreats. It hasn't been possible business-wise in the last couple of years as I've been involved in a major business growth and major business offering that took a great deal of my time, and I wasn't able to get away for more than a couple of weeks at a time. But the purpose of many of developing the business, it's my couples program, was to serve as many couples as I could in the wholesome ways possible, be of the most compassion and wisdom I'm able to be in that field, and also to, after a couple of years, create a bit of time freedom where I could work and teach for maybe 8 to 9 months of the year and have chunks of time where I could be in retreat. So now here I am in year 3 of that business plan. And I could show you, but over on the table over there are 3 different calendars I've been working with in the last 2 days with colored pens and everything else, blocking off 2022. And the first things I've put on that calendar are 2 periods of meditation retreat that I'm going to personally go do solo meditation with my teacher. I'm going to take the month of March, 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm going to take the month of July or August. I'm just in the process of nailing that all down. Why do I share that? Because my intention is firm. My intention is an elephant intention. It's a wise intention inside the depth, not of Cheryl herself, the ego personality person on the top, but the elephant underneath. Those of you that are new to the way I teach may be a little puzzled about this reference right now. The elephant is a symbol representing your deep inner wisdom and knowing, your fully awake Buddha nature that's already there underneath the clouds of confusion and personality quirks and the clingings that all of us, certainly me, are subject to. But I've been listening to the elephant. The elephant's been gently flapping its ears and gently blowing air out its trunk, very gently, and just saying, whispering, tiny little whisperings. Cheryl, it's time. Cheryl, it's time. Cheryl, it's time. And I listened to that and I thought, okay, pragmatically and realistically, is it possible for me to do some chunks of retreat this year for the benefit of self and all beings? So that's a little bit of what wise or right intention might taste like, the flavor of it. What helps you be a calmer, wiser, more loving, less judgmental, more clear, more kind, more compassionate person? It doesn't just have to be Dharma. It doesn't just have to be quote unquote retreat. These are incredibly powerful mediums for pretty much all of us on this call tonight. But I know that many of you watching might long to do a month or a 2 or a 3 month retreat, but you may not pragmatically be able to do that this year. So that's okay. Do it if you can. If you're curious to do that, send me an email. I'll try to guide you in the right direction for sure. Help, supervise you, whatever I can do. But if it's not possible, what can you do? What is that elephant asking you to do? And what can you pragmatically manage? And now let me give you a little bit of tough love and say, well, if you figure I can do a weekend meditation retreat, can I tough love you and push you harder and say, do a week? Can I push you harder and say, can you do 10 days? I've had some of you and others who are watching and others who are maybe not watching yet, might watch on replay or not watch at all, who have had to stand on their head metaphorically to do a 10-day meditation retreat. They've needed to use up all of their vacation days from their work. They've needed to scrape together funds to afford the nominal cost of the retreat, depending on which retreat center it is. It can be quite inexpensive or a little higher, just based on the cost of your food, your accommodation. It's all you need to pay for, but still it can be quite a stretch for some of us at sometimes, has been for me in the past. Who've had to stand on their head to have people take care of their pets or their home or cover their shifts at work. And they've done it. So often we say, oh, I'd like to, but I can't. I challenge you, if your mind says I can't, is that the elephant or the monkey? Who's saying you can't? And okay, maybe 10 days won't work this year because you've got some very serious commitments that'd be very hard to break. But a week might be possible, or maybe several weekends, or meditate every day for half an hour, for an hour, or. What can we do to help us have a year, a mind, a heart, a life that is more inclined towards kindness and compassion, more inclined towards health and mental health, more inclined to a reduction of unnecessary stress and a strengthening of our body, speech, and mind, so that when the stressors of life, the unexpected changes, the tragedies, the losses, the difficulties come at us, we're more able to roll with the punches. We're more able to blow in the wind. We have more strength. We have more courage. We have more sweetness and kindness towards ourselves and others. So I use this example simply because I hope it might be helpful, that I've been sitting down in the last 3 or 4 days. At the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I had a few days of space. And the first thing I've been doing is setting my intentions for the year to come. The big ones: more retreat, more effort toward awakening, teaching more retreat, spending more time being available for you and anybody I can help. That's not easy to do, given the other demands upon my time, etc. But it is my key, most important intention, is Dharma and retreat for others and for self. So then I was talking to one of the committee today about something that came up with, I think, great enthusiasm for all of us that were at that Bethlehem weekend of December 10th to 12th, is let's book another retreat or two at Bethlehem Center, our other beloved home center of the Hermitage on on Denman Island, is in a major rebuild and infrastructure, and they've used the COVID time to build new buildings, so they won't be open for the retreat season this year. Hopefully we'll be back there in 2023, but we have access to Bethlehem, this beautiful local center. So we will be announcing a retreat or maybe 2 retreats in the year to come. And we're hoping to announce those in the next few weeks so that you can plan for those. If that's something your intention, your wise intention, your right intention, your wisdom self is saying, more silence, more Dharma, more gathering, as we so gracefully did, so beautifully did. 18 of us, a few of you were able to come for the evening classes, to just sit in replenishment and letting go and beginning again, to be reminded of the beauty and the grace of the people here tonight and others in our group and people we haven't even met that have inside them an elephant. Everybody does, but we've got elephants inside us that we're actually listening to some of the time, that are saying, let go of that story, let go of that fear, let go of that self-imposed restriction that I can't possibly because ... And strip away what really matters. Some of us have lost beloveds in this past year. We've lost family members, children, spouses, parents, and more, to death, to illness, to so many tragic losses. So many of us are coinciding currently with someone we dearly love who's very ill with a terminal diagnosis. So many of us have had a very isolated year and maybe struggling with senses of meaning and senses of purpose and senses of what's it all about. Despair, depression, mental health issues, loneliness, anger. It's been a very challenging time. And I want to say this as skillfully as I can. I beg your forgiveness if the words don't come out quite right. But the last 2 years of the pandemic and the conditions of the pandemic, in terms of isolation, in terms of observing wise health orders and not mingling, and the amount of solitude, the amount of separation, the amount of our shiny objects that we haven't had access to, going to movies, going to concerts, traveling, having friends over, spontaneously dropping by a friend's house, hosting a dinner party, going to the lake with a bunch of people and throwing a frisbee around. As a culture, as a world, as a country, as an island, what happened to some degree in the last couple of years is that we were brought up face to face with the truth of the dukkha that we often don't notice in our privileged and fairly comfortable lives, meaning we're middle-class Canadians, we've got homes to live in that are pleasant, we've got food to eat that is healthy and doesn't make us sick, we've got water to drink that is healthy and doesn't make us sick, we've got extraordinary ease in many ways. We're in a God realm as middle-class Canadians. Our lives are very easy in terms of these sorts of struggles, and yet there is so much mental, emotional suffering. But in pre-COVID times, and these are broad sweeps, so forgive me if it's inelegant, in our pre-COVID times, we did a fairly good job of ignoring the dukkhas, because when we felt restless or bored, we went to a movie. When we felt lonely, we visited someone. When we weren't sure our job made much sense to us, we went out and bought a new pair of shoes or a mountain bike or a new car even. And it was easier, wasn't it, to distract ourselves with activities, with busynesses, with the basic accoutrements of samsara. It's a little harder to do that when you cannot go to a concert or jump on a plane and go visit your friend in Toronto or go to the beach or. So as a Dharma practitioner, as an observer of the mind, I found it really, really fascinating, because I'm sure many, many of you had even deeper observations than my simple ones I'm offering tonight, that we really had to come up to face with this. Face to face with us. Who are we when so many of our distractions are taken away? How are we when so many of our distractions are taken away? How do we do when we're home alone with our mind much more than before? Sure, we had TV and internet and Zoom and video games and books and endless Netflix. We had distractions, but a lot of our bigger, juicier distractions were not available to us. Well, I'll tell you, I didn't mind it at all. I wished very much it wasn't happening for the terrible and tragic illness, loss of life, and the incredible bad effect on so many beings. But I was deeply grateful that being in essential solitude for months at a time is reasonably comfortable to this mind because of the amount of 3-month silent meditation retreats I've done. Am I special? Absolutely not. Not in any way, other than maybe a little bit more training than some of you in being comfortable with just being alone with the mind. So what are your intentions for the year to come? What would be wholesome for you? What would incline your body, mind, and speech toward more awakening? And if you're not sure what awakening means, towards more kindness, towards more peacefulness, towards more gratitude, towards more calm, towards more happiness. Are you happy when you spend loads of money on things you don't really need? Maybe temporarily. When are you most content? What things bring you true joy, not just fleeting pleasantness? There's nothing wrong with fleeting pleasantness. I had a lovely fleeting pleasant hot fudge sundae an hour or two ago. It was very nice. But if that is how I feel happy, is only through the practice of having things that are pleasant, then I'm always at the desperate, sorry, being very distracted here by the dog and the husband whispering at the dog and thinking I can't hear him whisper at her. If you could just silently take her for a cuddle or something, that would be great. And check out the cats. They're going chaotic over there, which is why she's barking. They're running around. It's chaos down here. Everybody's, I don't know, enjoying the talk, being rather vocal about it. Where was I? Before the impermanence of life derailed me entirely. I was talking about what really leads to peacefulness and what are wholesome objects that we might choose to participate in. Hang on one second. There we go. He's going to try to sit and calm the crazy beasts. There's a phrase about that. Something about, taming the savage beast or something. It's a literary quote. He's going to tame the savage beast, which is what meditation is also about. How can we tame the savage beast of our mind, of our clinging, of our needs? So here we are. I'm pointing out the obvious. This is hardly a Cheryl original, that due to COVID pandemic lockdowns, isolation, restrictions on our ability to access people, places, and things, I really dearly hope for each and every one of you, your acquaintance with Dharma helped a little bit. It helped you learn how to be just with yourself or the one or two persons you might share a home with, two-legged or four-legged, and realize that while you would deeply enjoy to have more connections with those you love, it wasn't safe or wise to do so. It wasn't safe or wise to go breathe in the same room as your elders, etc. And instead of spending a tremendous amount of time in regret, in clinging, in loss. Yes, it is a sad situation. Yes, it was awfully hard that Christmas 2020, many of you have been to my home here in Maple Bay, and some of you know my mother lives about a kilometer from here, 1.5 kilometers, maybe just down Maple Bay Road a little bit. On Christmas Day, we didn't go to her house. We didn't go 1 kilometer away. We went the next day and stood outside in the yard. She was inside. She opened her sliding door and we said hellos and had a little visit, even then with our masks on. So we could take that as a terribly sad event. My mom's going to be 80 this year. She was lonely. She was doing okay, but not great. And yet we made the choice to not be in her home and potentially risk infecting her, which would have had poor consequences. But with the mind of Dharma, we could look at, if we started to think, That's so sad. I wish it was different. Oh, there we are, the first and second noble truth. Wishing it was different. This is so sad. What it was a change, an impermanence that we didn't care for. But the Dharma can so help us then let go of that hot coal of wanting it to be different. It's so sad that it also just is. It also just is. And when we bring the Dharma back to the heart, when we bring the Dharma back to the mind and remind ourselves, yes, this is a change we don't care for. This is a reality right now that we do wish was different, but that is the road to suffering, the road to peace, the road to compassion, the road to kindness is to accept the truth. For example, Christmas 2020, that going to have turkey dinner with mom was not a wise choice. And then to say, so how can we bring our heart forward? What can we do instead? We left gifties at her door and did some other things. All of you have stories far richer than that, far sadder than that, far more profound than that. But what I'm saying is, thank goodness for the Dharma. Thank goodness for the ability to come home, the way we began, to come home and know that when we practice them, when we look at them, when we try them on for size, those four noble truths are called noble for a reason. That noble truth that says, hey, everybody, things will sometimes change in ways we don't like. We didn't want a pandemic. We certainly didn't want the illness and death and loss that came throughout our towns, provinces, country, and the world. And yet here it is. How we engage with this new reality, and then it will shift, and then it will shift, and then it will shift. It determines whether we suffer or whether we feel some of the pain and the sadness, but can show up with love and compassion. So intentions. How do you want to be this year? Who do you want to be this year? What matters the most? If every one of us was told tomorrow by a wise specialist doctor that we've got some incredibly rare medical illness and we're going to die 365 days from now, we're going to be feel fine and have energy and all our faculties until then, and then we're just going to die, and that's that. What would we do? What would we do with the next 365 days if we knew they were our last? And let's say the doctor can bonk us on the head and say, and you're not going to worry about it or suffer. You're aware you only have a year, but there's going to be no future fear and there's going to be no worrying about it. There's just going to be the knowledge. I have these days. These are my days. These are what I have. After this, there will be no more. But without the grief that might actually bring, were we to get that diagnosis tomorrow. Instead, you've got a year to fully live. You've got a year to be your most wise and compassionate self. You've got a year to serve, to make a difference, to love those you love more fully and more freely with less nonsense and recrimination, and let go of the past. You've got a year. A luscious, full, rich, extraordinary 365-day year in which to thrive. What would you do? Would you go buy Ferraris on credit? Because who cares, you'll be dead. Maybe. Knowing most of you, I don't think any of you would. Some people would. Will you go spend all the money doing all the things, to quote again my niece, the vernacular of the youth? Maybe. I'm not saying it would be terrible to buy some things, or especially to give things away. I'm not entirely sure what I would do, but I have some pretty good ideas. It would involve a lot of Dharma. It would involve a lot of meditating, a lot of teaching. Should you have me? Should it feel of use to you? It would involve spending as much time loving and giving and receiving and being. It wouldn't involve buying Ferraris, that's for sure. It would involve a lot less getting stuck in the minutiae irritations of every day. It would involve not holding grudges when the people we care about or don't care about do or say things that we don't care for or hurt us. It would involve a lot more ease, because when we let go of being upset at that thing someone said when they were being unskillful, I say unskillful things all the time. I don't do it as a deliberate hobby. I do it because I'm a human, and I'm also a human that makes my living and my all my free work and all my love in words. I write, I talk, I teach, I create videos, I create podcasts. I generate a lot of words. Some of them I'm going to make mistakes. Some of them are going to be deliberately or unintentionally or mindlessly unskillful. Or maybe some of them will actually be skillful, but they'll be misinterpreted or misunderstood by the receiver. Sometimes I'm literally putting out something that's not skillful, often not on purpose, but still, that doesn't excuse it in any way. Sometimes I'm putting out something that's neutral or skillful, but it's misinterpreted by the receiver, and so on. The amount of pain and suffering each and every one of us has spent in our life worrying about words that were said or not said, worrying about concepts that we understood correctly or incorrectly. We're all human. As I often quote an old friend of mine, we're all just bozos on this bus trying to get there the best way we can. Sometimes we're going to mess up. What matters is that we forgive, apologize, repair, and begin again. If we have 365 days to live, do you want to waste any of it hanging on to old hurts? Do you want to waste any of it being self-righteous about other people's lack of clarity sometimes? In the Bible, persons in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Who is each of us to hang on to other people's mistakes where they said or did something unskillful or mean toward us? Have you never said or done anything unskillful or mean yourself? What would it be to live with freedom this year? What would it be to forgive immediately upon any small or large slights, others and yourself? And I don't mean forgive yourself, like let yourself off the hook and then keep doing the same unskillful stuff over and over. I mean, wow, that wasn't skillful, Cheryl. Repair it, forgive, ask for forgiveness, clarify if needed, make whatever amends we can, then let go and move on, vowing to do better. Wise intention. The Buddha put this in, the Eightfold Path. The Buddha put this in as one of the clearest, most important things we can do is what is our intention? And if you boil it right down, if your intention is something like to be kind, to feel compassion for persons I don't agree with and don't understand, to stand up for that which is right, but to do it with love, not anger, to continue to train my mind and heart so I'm better at the things I just said, so I'm a little less reactive, a little less judgmental, and more easily and available to try to understand the other point of view. What a year you would have. See, the beautiful thing about practicing compassion and wisdom is that the side effect is you'll feel better. It's a wonderful side effect. Practicing wisdom and compassion, practicing meditation, thinking of the world from a wise intention, a wise viewpoint of view. And yeah, I can teach more on that coming up if that's helpful, will have the incredibly magnificent side effect of you being happier, you being calmer, you being kinder. What a marvelous thing that when we act with more skill, we feel better. That, by the way, is the ethics piece. The three other chunks I mentioned of right speech, right livelihood, and right action. When we act more skillfully, when we don't give in to all our pettinesses and angers as often, when we clean them up, when we make those mistakes, we're happier. How many of us enjoy being tangled up in a story of resentment? How many of us feel good when we're rehearsing? I can't believe they did that, and don't they see I have a point of view and they shouldn't want to do that? We've all done it. I do it too. Are you happy when you're running that narrative? Of course you're not. Miserable. It's like we're taking pins and sticking them in our own eyeballs and saying, ow, this really hurts. So intention. Let's all pretend we have 365 days to live and then it's all over. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? How do you want to feel? How do you want to assist other beings, other people, your loved ones, your friends, your neighbors, the persons you work with, volunteer with, to feel? How do you want to walk through life this year? And then let's bring it down. How do you want to walk through life in the month of January? Let's make it, January, have 31 days, I think so. Let's make it a 31-day challenge. And then let's bring it down again. How do you want to live the next 7 days? Here we are, Monday night. So from now till next Monday night, how do you want to live these next 7 days? Who do you want to be? What are your intentions? How do you want to feel, act? How do you want to contribute? What would you do if you only had 7 days to live, but we got bonked on the head? So in the next 7 days, there wasn't any worry or fear or the usual clinging and grief we would probably feel if we literally had 7 days to live. But we only have 7 days to live, but they've gone bonk, and the piece of the grief and the fear about that is gone. There's just the 7 days. What will you do with them? Who will you be? What will you value? These are great questions to ask because they can help us refine our intentions into wise intentions. Wise intentions. If you had one day, if you had 24 hours from now, we're at approximately 20 to 8 p.m. Pacific time, 7:40. If 7:40 tomorrow night, you close your eyes and never open them again. No pain, no drama, just close your eyes and done. How would you spend the next 24 hours? What intentions would you set? Who would you be? How would you be? And again, in this thought experiment, there'd be no grief or fear about knowing you had only 24 hours. You would know it, but there'd be complete grace and equanimity and sort of excitement. Oh, I've got 24 hours. What are the most rich, beautiful, loving things I can possibly do? How can I forgive myself and others? How can I embrace life? How can I truly enjoy that cup of tea? What if you had 1 hour? What if we each have 60 minutes to fully live with good intention and heart? What would that feel like? What would we do in the next 60 minutes if they were our last? What if we have 5 minutes? What would we do if we only have 5 minutes? What intentions of kindness, compassion, wisdom, grace would I hope all of us would have again? In this thought experiment, the obvious and typical and normal fear and grief and terror about that would be eradicated. There'd just be the knowledge, I have 5 minutes. Wow. How fully could we live if we had 1 minute? How fully could we live these 60 seconds with compassion and wisdom? Which brings us to how fully can we live this moment, this present breath, this minute, this second, this millisecond, because this is not just semantics, it's not just concept, but literally all we ever have is this moment. If we're lucky, there'll be another moment after this one that we will have only that moment once it's come for the rest of our life. It sounds almost gimmicky, given how much the present moment is talked about in the modern vernacular of mindfulness, of meditation, of many things. None of those are bad. But what I mean is, be in the present moment is repeated so often in so many sources, it's become something we go, yeah, I know that. Do you know that? Do you really? Do you have an inkling of what it's actually like to show up in the present moment? I hope all of you do. Because in the present moment, everything is absolutely fine. Even if you're in the middle of a dying process, racked with pain, in the present moment, when that can fall away for a second, everything's fine. All of our fear and anxiety is based in the future. All of our grief and loss is based in the hypothetical future or the past. In this present moment, this is not semantics, this is literal truth, and I want you each to explore it. In this present instant, everything's fine. Everything's fine. So if we have 1 minute to live, if we have 1 moment to live, if we have 1 breath to live, that's all we actually ever have. Hopefully we'll all have decades of 1 present moment to live. Decades and decades. More time to train our mind and heart, more time to serve the community and the planet, more time to conduct wholesome acts, speech, livelihoods, and more. And that's not easy. It's certainly not easy for me. And so I train. And this year I hope to train more. It's one of my intentions. Train in concentration, train in mindfulness, train in effort, train my ethics, improve my speech, which is clumsy and elegant too often, improve my livelihood, improve how I serve the beautiful persons I get to serve in various capacities, improve my actions, improve my view, improve my intentions, improve. Why? Because that's the heart of Dharma. And when each of us do a little bit better or a lot better in any of those 8 pieces of the pie, the absolute grace and beauty is we're happier. We suffer less. And because the path of Dharma is not meant to be a selfish path, it's not just that we feel better, we suffer less, we love more fully and deeply. We also are inclined, even above and beyond all your usual generosities, your usual graciousnesses, the way all of you serve your families, your communities, through everything you do, but we're inclined even more in a healthy, wholesome way, from a place of abundance, not burnout, from a place of giving, not obligation, from a place of joy, not should. We share, we help, we give. Intentions. To heck with New Year's resolutions. How about some wholesome intentions? Each and every one of you to choose something, however small. I intend to drink more water every day. That's good. That's good for your health. It's good for your mental clarity. It's good for your cell structure. Great. Start small. But I wouldn't be being completely transparent if I didn't say, I hope one of your intentions will be around meditation or Dharma or service in some small or large way. Perhaps to read one good Dharma book a month, or attend one good Dharma class a month, or go on one retreat, or meditate for 10 minutes 3 times a week, or meditate for an hour every day, or go for a mindful walk twice a week where I don't listen to a podcast or a book. Those are lovely to do other times, but I just walk and pay attention. I notice whatever it is, do something, commit to something, intend towards something that will grow your body, speech, and mind, that will help melt some of the confusion and delusion. Because honestly, again, this isn't hyperbole, it's not a gimmick, and I'm not meaning to be a smart aleck in any way. We literally only have this moment. 21 seconds from now, a meteor could hit the earth right here on Vancouver Island, and all of our lives could suddenly end. We could be vaporized, and that may sound fanciful, but it's actually remotely possible. This is the moment we have. And if in 21 seconds from now, which we've already reached, but 21 more seconds from now, everything ended, I would be incredibly humbled and grateful that I spent the last instance of this mortal life this time around sharing Dharma, hearing Dharma through your hearts, through the screens, through your intentions, and reminding myself through the gift and the privilege of reminding you that much of what we're hanging on to is not helpful. And we can let it all go because the past doesn't exist anymore. The future may or may not come, but in this moment, we can practice wisdom and kindness and peacefulness. Wise intention, beginning again, moving into what a symbolic new year with intentions more inclined towards that which brought each and every one of us, each and every elephant, to this virtual talk this evening. And as my old dog noisily slurps her water in my rather busy Dharma room tonight, we'll bring this to a close with just a few moments of meditation, simply being in the body, simply breathing, simply noticing what it's like to experience the simplicity of this simple moment. And we close with a dedication of merit. Idang te punyakamana swakyawang ho tu. Idang te punyakamana swakyawang ho tu. Idang te punyakamana swakyawang ho tu. Which translates to, by the merit of this strengthening activities, may there be a cessation of the defilements. It's a very common dedication chanted in many places around the world. Thank you for your kind attention to the Dharma. By practicing, by listening, by setting wiser, more loving intentions for self, for others, may we all really inhabit each moment. And when we forget, when we get mindless, we can come home. We can come home by focusing on our body, touching the earth, the chair, the floor. We can attempt to invite the mind to show up in this present moment for real, not just as a gimmicky sentence, and really experience what's actually happening, because almost all the stories in our head are not happening at all. Thank you for being here. In terms of what might come next, I may be unavailable for a few weeks in terms of coming to Nanaimo in person. We're booking an in-person class at the Rotary Center in the 2nd or 3rd week of February. However, if this felt helpful for people, I may be able to offer a couple of more virtual classes in the meantime. So we'll touch base about that. Neil will send out some information on that after a brief powwow I'll have with a couple of the persons. Thank you to Wendy, to Neil, to Cheryl, to Shelley, to Brenna, to Marie, to a number of people here and not here who are the reason we're able to move forward, who spend all sorts of time coordinating things. I'm so grateful for the support, for the kindness, for the compassion, to allow us to bring the Dharma in whatever ways, whatever flexible ways we find through this interesting time. So I'm more than happy to offer a few more virtual Dharma talks in the next month or so until we can meet in person. So stay tuned for that. We'll pick some dates for that. In the meantime, really take action on something you heard tonight. I invite you to contemplate intentions for the year to come. You don't have to rush it. Maybe grab a piece of paper and jot a few things down after this. Return to it over the next few days. Intentions for the day, the week, the month, the year. Don't set a whole bunch of unrealistic goals. It's more you want the intention. My intention is to serve more through the Dharma and to train more in the Dharma. The actual logistics of how that will end up being executed, I'm working on, but the intention is clear. When you have the intention, it's like the point on the map. And then the way you get there may have to often wane due to circumstances. But if the intention is strong, I intend to be a more loving friend. How you do that may change, but keep coming back to the intention. I hope that was helpful. I hope it made sense. Thank you for being here with me and my rather busy Dharma home tonight. And sending you love and blessings for this year to come. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everybody. And bye for now.